we have breaking news right now I want to get into. From Dallas to D.C., the Commanders are hiring defensive coordinator Dan Quinn as their head coach, per league sources. Adam Schefter just tweeting this out here. Quinn and Commanders GM Adam Peters are the two men now charged with leading Washington into the future. All right, Stephen A., I'll start with you. Do you like Dan Quinn as the hire as head coach of the Commanders?
No.
Ooh.
I do not. I'm not questioning his football qualifications as a head coach in Atlanta. He was decent, got him to the Super Bowl, lost a 28-3 lead with Kyle Shanahan as his offensive coordinator. The last time we saw him was in a playoff game where the Dallas Cowboys defense looked horrific. That was our last vision of him. Now, obviously, he's improved the defense by leaps and bounds over the years with the Dallas Cowboys. He had the personnel in place. But in moments where it really, really counted, they came up short. To me, if you're a division rival within the NFC East, and that's the backdrop for it, for that to be your hire, I mean, it's not a bad hire. I certainly don't mean to imply that. But I would have much rather preferred Dan Quinn remaining as the defensive coordinator in Dallas and going back to try and make amends for the horrific performance that they had put forth in the NFC wildcard playoff game against the Green Bay Packers. That's what I would have preferred personally. That's not what happened. Again, I'm not saying that the man can't coach. I'm not saying that the man doesn't deserve a job. I'm not even saying he doesn't deserve to be a head coach. But an NFC East rival, coming off what I saw them do, am I excited about this hire for the nation's capital? No.
Okay, before you guys weigh in, I want to bring in Mina Kimes. Mina, do you have me? Oh, there she is. Hi, Mina. Good morning. What are your thoughts on the Commanders hiring Dan Quinn as their head coach?
I think there are pros and cons. Here, Stephen A., I understand that the last we saw of Dan Quinn's defense, it wasn't very pretty. I think some personnel issues factored into that and matchups as well. I do think he deserves a lot of credit, not just for how good this Cowboys defense has been under him, but the fact that he has pivoted as a play caller from the scheme he used to run in Seattle, that cover three in Atlanta you saw in Dallas. He innovated, he made adjustments based on the players he had. Those are qualities I like in a head coach, frankly, that ability to continue evolving, and that's sorely needed in Washington given how bad that defense was last year, how much they need talent. But I think my hesitation, and this is why it's sort of an unfinished grade for me, is the most important job he has. The most important thing when it pertains to the Commanders this season is nailing that quarterback pick at number 2 and then building an offense around that quarterback, nurturing him, facilitating. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have an offensive coach. You can look at Houston, where DeMeco Ryans brought Bobby Sloak, and they did such a fantastic job with C.J. Stroud. But it does mean that Dan Quinn has to absolutely nail the offensive coordinator hire. And I'm a little bit worried about his ability to do so, because the further this thing goes on, and this is late in the cycle, of course, he's the last coach, head coach hired, there aren't as many options, and there's no obvious candidate the way Slowick was with DeMeco Ryans.
Yeah, that's my issue. You know, I talked to sources inside the building, outside the building yesterday, and everybody thought a week ago, 2 weeks ago, it was like, oh, Ben Johnson is going to be the guy. But Ben Johnson, I was told, didn't interview. The team wasn't sold on Ben Johnson. And Dan Quinn came in, interviewed well. You know, I think I'm not surprised he's the head coach. What does worry me about the search taking so long is, as Mina said, now all the top OC and DCs have been snatched up. So when you want a fan base right now with new ownership, you don't, like, is Sam Howell the quarterback? Is that where we're going? What are we doing? What are you going to do at 2? Are you going to bring a new guy in? Who's the guy? Do you nail that pick? Now you have a head coach who now, like, they're trying to reinvigorate this fan base that has stuck with his team through so much, the Dan Snyder era, everything, and a lot of losing. Ron Rivera was a player's coach. Guys loved him. But the difference here with Quinn and the way this structure is set up now is they have a true GM in Adam Peters. Where you talk about the personnel hire. This is a huge draft for a first-time GM. Granted, he came from San Francisco. They know what they're doing. But they have to nail this pick. But at least Dan Quinn, now he will have input on the draft and all that. But it's not going to be the same amount of power that Ron Rivera had from a personnel standpoint. I think that's what a lot of people criticize Ron for. The personnel plus the players on the field, the production wasn't where it needed to be.
So I got plus and a minus. So the plus here is you obviously take away from a divisional foe. in the Dallas Cowboys. We saw the work that Dan Quinn put in as far as the Dallas Cowboys and their defense. They got tremendously better under Dan Quinn. I know the last time we saw the Cowboys defense, they got shellacked by the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
But make no mistake about it, that defense got a lot better under Dan Quinn. So I think that's a plus as far as being in the same division. The big minus for me, and Mina and Kimberley hit on it, is the fact that he's the last hire. Offensive coordinator spots are being dried up. Everyone's been picking over all the top coordinators. You got the number 2 pick in the draft. You have to hit on the quarterback. We can talk about defense. We can talk about everything. If you don't hit on the quarterback, you have no chance of being successful. So to me, that's the negative is Dan Quinn, this hiring being so late. What kind of offensive staff he's going to put together? Can they hit on the quarterback? I got my questions.